Now, Dr. Ibrahim Gwarzo, he's an epidemiologist from Texas A&M University. He joins us now from the United States. Thank you. Glad to have you on the program. First, tell us, how would you say the U.S. is responding to the pandemic while recording a large number of deaths?
Thank you for having me. So the U.S. has responded to the pandemic like a lot of other European countries or developed countries. The U.S. Has significantly improved its testing capacity, cornerstone of responding to the pandemic. Initially, at the initial stage of the pandemic here in the U.S., the testing capacity was really low because of things like the CDC was trying to find a reliable testing method, and therefore the testing was not available in a lot of places, and people were having difficulties accessing them. But I think it's safe to see now that the U.S. has improved its testing capacity, and the response has also improved. The problem now that the U.S. is facing now is the issue of reopening the economy. The economy has been dormant for the last 6 weeks when the lockdown was affecting most part of the U.S. However, over the last week or so, a lot of states, or about 25 or 26 states in the U.S. have eased their lockdown measures, and the economy is gradually coming back to the best possible expectations.
Just before I get your thoughts on perhaps how Nigeria is doing, U.S. President has threatened to withdraw and cut off funding for the World Health Organization. Do you think that it would adversely affect the capacity of the health body to fighting COVID-19 this period?
Well, absolutely. The WHO is the international organization that is responsible for coordinating the global response to pandemics such as this one. And suddenly, funding is what is essentially important to this response. And the US is probably the country with the largest contribution in terms of funding to the WHO. So when the US decides to withdraw its funding, it is expected to adversely affect the response at the global stage. However, what we are seeing is an improvement in the funding from other countries in response to what the US had decided to do. And we are hoping this improvement in funding from other countries can bridge the gap and help the WHO to respond properly.
In Nigeria, we have tested almost 40,000, and we've been told that by experts we need to ramp up testing. But overall, how would you assess our last epidemiological report?
Well, as you said, as of yesterday, the May 18th, Nigeria was able to test at least about 35,000 or above 35,000, still less than 40,000, which is grossly inadequate. The cornerstone of responding to the pandemic is really is to do a lot of testing. Why do we need to do testing? Simply because we want to see who is infected and who is not. And once we know who is infected, we are able to isolate the ones who are infected to prevent them from infecting others. If you do not test, you do not know who is infected, and those who are infected would go ahead and spread the disease to the larger population. At the moment, Nigeria is not doing enough. If you look at the per capita testing that we have done in Nigeria, the 40,000 or the 35,000 is still less than 0.1 per thousand population. Compared to the other African countries like Ethiopia and South Africa, they have done much better in terms of testing. So there is still significant room for improvement in terms of testing in Nigeria.
We'd like to thank you, Dr. Ibrahim Gwarzo, epidemiologist from Texas A&M University. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.